Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? I am here with Simon for another player interview. He had an awesome weekend at Nationals. So Simon, take it away. Introduce yourself and tell us how you did at Nationals.
Hey guys, what's up? My name is Simon. I had a pretty good run at Nationals. I was playing Blue-Black Kid Q. I placed 8th in Swiss after 8 rounds in Nationals, and then I placed 5th through 8th in Top Cut after winning my first round and then losing my second round.
Awesome, man. That's an excellent finish, especially at the biggest tournament of the year. Not to put you on the spot or anything, but like, do you remember a handful of your matchups or maybe all of them? Like,
I remember all my matchups, actually. I like writing down my matchups afterwards so I can keep track of them just for personal record. So I have them actually all in a notes document on my phone.
Oh, awesome. Do you want to go through them?
Yeah, sure. So round 1, I actually played against a Goku Black and Zamasu leader from set 7, the one that tries to ramp you to kill you.
Yep.
That one is a little bit of an easier matchup for Kid Q, as you know, because you can just sit on 2 energy and activate Kid Q ability, just put out 30Ks and 20Ks and put down beats, because their leader has to have you at 3 energy to awaken. So they're pretty much stuck at 10K for the duration of the game. That was a pretty quick 2-0. Round 2, I played against Mikhail, who also made top 16. He was my only loss in Swiss on the day. He was playing a green-yellow Brawly Apes variant. It was actually super spicy, and he was running the one Zamasu that has Activate Battle to kill something that costs 1. So it was really hard for me to stick my Awakening Talent Pans, my Son Goku Adventure Begins, my Bonds of Friendships. So that was a really tough matchup. I lost in time to him because I punted during the combo step because I wanted to try to get it back to my turn before we got to a draw. But he still played super well regardless, and he definitely deserved the win. Round 3, I played against a blue-red Janemba player. I took that game 2-0. It was a little bit harder to play through the topo negates because it's hard to discard 2 cards for every attack, but Kid Q draws a lot of cards, so it wasn't terribly difficult. Round 4, I played against a Shenron Gogeta player that was teching in Victory Strike for another alternate win condition, and I won that match 2-1. My only loss was against a Victory Strike when he landed a Son Goku striving to be the best, and I didn't have a way to get it off the board. Round 6, I played against the World Martial Art Tournament Oob leader. I took that matchup 2-0. It's a little easy for the Kid Q, in my opinion, because you're just way too aggressive for them. Desperate Measures out of the side is a huge piece to stop their Videl plays, and it's just pretty easy to aggro them out. Round 7, I also played against another Shenron Gogeta player. He was probably my favorite opponent of the day in Swiss. He was super nice, super funny, had a great time, even though we were both on the winning end. I took that matchup 2-0. And then round 8, when we weren't sure if there was going to be another round, round 8 was actually the winning end for me. I played against the new Demigra with using the expansion set stuff from the Magnificent Collection, and I played defensively that matchup, used Bean's Power Burst, stopped attacks, and then just waited for him to self-awaken before I pushed for lethal, and I took that matchup 2-0. And then in top 16, I played against Clash Q on stream. That was my favorite opponent of Sunday in Top Cut. He was super nice. I already reached out to him on Messenger, already been talking to him. I know you did an interview with him for his LCQ win in Texas. Yeah, and that was awesome. I definitely watched that video beforehand to try to understand how he played, how he thought, used a little bit of mental preparation beforehand to do that, and I told him that, and he just laughed, and he said that it's basically the same deck, so that was pretty funny. But he was a super chill guy. I took that match 2-0. You can watch it over on the main Dragon Ball Twitch channel. And then I lost to Robert, who placed 3rd at the event. I lost to him in top 8. He was on blue yellow apes, and I lost that matchup 0-2. He had a really solid grip, and he had a lot of cards that were really, really good against my deck that the other apes players didn't have.
Dang, man. Well, for 1, awesome weekend for you. For 2, you're making this job super easy for me, just having like all that stuff organized for me. I really appreciate that. And number 3, it's really cool how you're able to use the player interview I did with Rohit to look through his deck and kind of get in his mind. And it's so funny how you ended up playing him. That's really, really cool. So we'll get through the deck profile here. So first of all, you're playing mono blue Skilless. So did you ever experiment with other colors? Like why was blue the choice for you?
So I tried the yellow versions or the blue yellow versions, just trying the Matido, and then instead of Awakening Talent Pan, you run the one Krillin Self Awakener to try to get some more aggression in. I just didn't like how the mana worked out in those builds. It was really hard to get the colors that you needed. It was a little bit too inconsistent. I prefer a monocolor because when half your deck, if you think about it, you have to run at least 10 black cards for the Kid Q and the 4-star balls, and that's a really, really taxing amount on your mana. So I think sticking to just one color is the most consistent for Kid Q. I actually took inspiration from one of my friend Eden's lists. He played nearly the exact same list at Columbus, and he played Kid Q during the event as well for Nationals. He did really, really good for Columbus. I believe he placed third at that event, and then at Nationals, I believe he went X and 2 or X and 3. So he also put up a pretty solid record with Kid Q. But we both found in our testing that the mono variants are just the easiest, and Senzu Bean just helps extend your plays or play defensively for the deck. So the blue variant was the best out of the ones that we found in testing.
Awesome, man. Yeah, and it seems like Mono Blue has really been doing it lately. I mean, it's funny. Skilless used to be like so highly represented, and now it's like one of the probably least played decks, but it still manages like to make top cut here and there, and Mono Blue seems to be the way to go, which is pretty solid. So going through the list, 3 Champa, super aggressive. Your Awakening Talent Pan, the Beans, the Vegetas, the 30k Vados. That's your 30k of choice. We have so many now, and it's really cool to be able to pick like whatever flavor character you want.
Yeah, there's actually 4 different 30k blue vanillas, because there's the Great Saiyaman from the starter deck. So you have Dabura, Vados, Great Saiyaman, and Mr. Buu. I think it's a Majin Buu from the draft box. So actually for my next event, I was thinking of running one of each, because that way it's just easier to tell when there's one in your life, and you can just quickly count up instead of having to manually count each one that's in your deck.
Yes, this man gets it. I love that. So the one of Surprise Attack Frieza. So this is like the most funny one of I see in this deck all the time. So did you like it? I mean, I remember talking to Eden a few weeks ago. I interviewed him, and he was like, it's just the 50th card. It's kind of whatever. Like, did you particularly like the card, or was it kind of whatever?
I think it was one of the better cards in my deck throughout the entire weekend. I never charged it, obviously, because green doesn't really do anything. It was a 1-mana 10k combo when I needed to use it defensively, but it just put in a lot of work throughout the weekend. I would frequently combo away my Kid Qs when I had a Bonds of Friendship on board to pop something, after I'd already gotten my max value out of the Kid Q. And then I'd put in a Surprise Attack Frieza. And the Surprise Attack Frieza, just having a 15k crit, it's like the same thought process behind the Dimension Support Trunks. You get out that 15k crit pretty much every turn, or 20k in Dimension Support Trunks' case. You get that out, you combo with your first Skilless for the turn when you're awakened. That's a 10k, plus you throw a Champa on it, that's 20k, plus whatever base power. So the Surprise Attack Frieza then becomes, for essentially 2 cards and itself, it's a 35k crit double strike, which puts your opponent into a really, really awkward situation to either try to defend that or just lose 2 cards out of their life for basically no resource for you.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's just one of the most free plays in the deck. Like, that's the thing about Skilless. It's really cheap aggression, has like the ability to play incredibly high value defense. Like, the deck is really just a coverall, which I really like about it. And then Bonds of Friendship Android 8, a card that I never played personally, but I'm starting to see more of its merit as across different formats, more so than when I played it. But so, like, how clutch was this card? Like, was the removal really good? Like, obviously, it used to be really good against Titan Mastery, but like, what matchups nowadays is this card like putting in the work?
I think Bonds of Friendship is one of the most underrated cards in the deck. Even though I'm only running 9 Skilless, which is basically a fifth of the deck, it only whiffed twice the entire weekend, once in Top Cut and once in one of my other matches that I can't remember. The ability to replace itself is super nice, but it also can be recurred with your Power Burst if you haven't seen a Kid Q yet. The fact that you can combo away the Kid Q to pop an opponent's just anything that doesn't have barrier on board is huge. Like against one of my opponents that went into a Victory Strike, they couldn't actually go into it because I had the Bonds and the Kid Q on board that they couldn't deal with, because during the defense step I would just combo away the Kid Q, pop their Victory Strike, and their attack just would fizzle. It was pretty relevant. Also, you could see it on my stream match. I was able to combo away Kid Q and pop, I believe it was a Final Showdown Goku against Rohit, and that was a 25k double striker that I didn't really have the means to deal with at the time because I didn't have a Vados on board. It was, honestly, I think Bonds of Friendship is the most underrated card in the deck. It might not win you the game, but it adds a lot of consistency and helps get over maybe some other cards that might be too big for you to kill.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I can definitely see the merits there. And then the 5 overwhelm lineup, was that ever like a lot? Like, did it ever clunk your hand? Like, it's sometimes if you can't get Awaken, it's kind of hard to fill the drop area. But I mean, did you ever have problems with that, or was this like the perfect number of overwhelm?
It wasn't too bad. I would occasionally charge one of them. Usually one of them will get charged per match. I try to overwhelm maybe once or twice, or well, once per turn, maybe 3 times over the course of a match. With the way that your leader works on the Awaken side to draw 2, discard 1, it's pretty easy to fill up your drop. Also, warping stuff isn't that bad in the deck. Warping 4-star balls is kind of bad, but warping Kid Qs and Bonds of Friendship, like I said earlier, you can just get them back with Power Burst. It's not too hard for the deck to accomplish. I would maybe cut down one of the Bardocs. It was fine all weekend. I like being able to play it late game when I was trying to get a lethal push to just draw 2 and then discard maybe a Power Burst that I had left over in my hand, or a Senzu Bean that I couldn't activate that turn. And it was just 20k. I liked the 5, but I'm sure there could be some tweaking on those numbers.
Gotcha. I really love Dimensional Banisher Fu in the deck, so maybe that would be something you could potentially explore.
The Dimensional Banisher Fu is something really nice. I was running Scientist Fu for a while as a finisher, but I think that it's just too easy to get rid of nowadays. I would probably switch to... If I wanted to have a double strike finisher, I would probably use the Mirror from the Skies from the draft box. But if I wanted like a Overrealm removal card, I would either run Trunks Dimensional Sniper from the draft box to pop something that's 3 or less, or the Fu that's the Overrealm double strike to just warp anything, which I think both have their merits. It just depends.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. So awesome. So that's going through the main deck. Now we'll go over to the sideboard. So 3 Desperate Measures. Now this kind of card, really interesting. I kind of feel like people either love it or hate it. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of it unless it's like against Topo. Against Topo, it's like a blowout, but against like most other things, it's kind of mediocre. How did you feel about it all weekend?
The Desperate Measures, it helps against the striving to be the best. Because they have to tap out for it. They don't get to play their Super Dragon Balls or objections on those turns. So you basically stop their turn, and then that lets you get in more leader attacks and maybe more 2k attacks that you had on board. Like you said, it was really, really good against the Topos, because the Topo costs 2 in hand when you activate it to counter it. All those counter plays that activate in hand are counter attacks. It was really clutching. Also, there's a cute little trick that you can do with it. You can bounce one of your tapped vanillas that have already attacked to return it to your hand, and then if you haven't comboed with a Skilless, it gives the extra 5k from being the first Skilless you combo with for the turn. So there's just some neat little tricks. It didn't come in every matchups, but I'd liked it in the matchups I brought it in.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's some really cool value there too. Like they're experimenting with these like flute type of effects, for anyone listening that played during that time, and they're doing okay so far, but that's really high value to be able to get like a 10k combo back to your hand essentially. So going through the rest of the sideboard, Ultimate Judgment Jocko for the 8 matchup, it looks like Godstrike Beerus. So I love this card as a one of in most Senzu Bean decks, especially coming from the sideboard. So was this card particularly clutch for you all weekend?
Yeah, I actually would have lost a matchup against one of my opposing Shenron players if I didn't have the Godstrike. So he was able to stick a Striving to be the best, and I couldn't counter it. I had a Bonds on board and a Kid Q. I drew into the Godstrike Beerus, and I was able to attack with Leader, combo a Godstrike Beerus, eat the barrier off of the Striving to be the best, and combo a Kid Q to kill it when I had like 3 or 4 2k or 2 mana guys on board, and that just pushed through for lethal. So it did win me at least one game, and then that won me the match. I believe I only brought it in against the Shenron opponents, but every single card in my sideboard I brought in at least once throughout the whole tournament.
Awesome. And the offensive Godstrike Bears too, that's not something you see every day, so that's pretty dope. Then we have the Force Ejection Mass Saiyan. So that looks like the main piece of Shenron Ramp Hate. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the only thing you probably brought in against that deck. Oh, actually, also probably Desperate Measures as well. But did you ever wish you had like a little more Ramp Hate, or was 2 plenty?
No, I think 2 is fine because your deck, this version's super low to the ground. By turn 3, you can threaten to put out 6+ damage depending on how like crazy your turns were and how many Senzu Beans you have. So the fact that you can pressure their life total that quickly makes Shenron decks, in my opinion, an easy matchup. The 2 that I played against, I wasn't worried at all playing against them, but the Force Ejection Mass Saiyan, Kid Q has an easy time playing the 2 in 1 turn, and that actually came up in my round 7 match. I was able to play 2 in 1 turn against my opponent. He had charged to 4. He played a Whis actually to ramp, and then on my turn 4, I played one and then I overwhelmed the other. I was able to eat 2 energy, just normal forced ejection stuff. I think 2 is the right number. I wouldn't put any more in. I wasn't too scared of the Shenron decks with this list.
Awesome. And the 3 Haru Haru for the yellow leaders, 2 Time Ruler Toa, mostly for the mirror match, right?
Mostly for the mirror match, and if I ran into any Toa across the entire event, because a lot of them are playing the Kid Ku engine, so you can play your Toa, take their Kid Kus. I also sided it in against the Demigra matchup because my opponent was playing a Kid Ku engine with that, so I didn't actually get to play it, but it would have been good in that matchup because he had a Kid Ku that sat on board for the majority of the game. Gotcha.
And then the one very random TN. So this is kind of like the 15th card, or like was there a solid reason for just the one?
It was basically the 15th card. I was back and forth on how many Desperate Measures and how many Haru Harus I wanted because I expected a large amount of Brawly BR coming into the tournament. I knew that there was going to be a lot of people playing that Yellow Apes list. And the Tenshin Han, you can hardcast it against them and they can't Zeno button you, but that doesn't feel as good. But I felt like I saw enough in my deck that 3 Haru Harus were enough, and I wanted something, at least one thing to come in against the Janemba matchups besides Desperate Measures. So the TN was just a personal opinion. I like it in the side. At worst, it becomes like a 1 mana 15k beater too, which is pretty decent for the deck.
Awesome. So overall, that is the deck list. I mean, now that we've gone over it, and after having played through the event, is there anything like drastic you would change in the 65?
I think it's in a pretty good spot right now. I would maybe try to fit in some more ways to fit crit into the attacks. It really just depends on how the next format ends up shaping up, because this format is pretty much coming to a close with Set 8 coming out soon, with Nationals being the last major event before then. So I got to see what all happens with Set 8. The new yellow and red Senzu Bean hate might be a little bit hard for the deck to deal with the where you have to warp 5 cards from your drop to activate Senzu Beans offensively. So the deck might have to switch to a more aggressive yellow variant and cut like the Awakening Talent Pans, and that would mean you like cut Desperate Measures out of the side, but we'll just have to see where the metal settles for the next format.
Gotcha, Simon. Well, thank you so much for going through that with me. Any final thoughts on the event you want to get out, or any final shout outs you want to give?
The event was super fun. I thought it was really well run. At least the main event was. TAC did a really good job. All the judges handled everything super well. A couple judge calls that I had to have were all super awesome. Major shout out to the judges who ran the event. I don't think they get enough love in the community. People like to hate on them for different like rulings and stuff, but they bust their asses every day for all the events that they do. I don't think they get enough support. So that's what my main shout out would go to. Other shout outs would have to go to my local card store and all the players there for just helping me with the deck, helping me practice every week with our locals. It's just been an honor playing with them, and I'm happy with how well I did at the tournament. So they definitely contributed a lot to that success.
Awesome, Simon. Thank you, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.